Here in Manchester, New Hampshire, covering the New Hampshire primary. Honored to be joined by Congressman Charles Bass of New Hampshire, too. How are you, Congressman?
Great. How are you?
I'm
Pretty
doing
exciting, isn't it?
It's got to be. It's neat for us to be here. You go through this every 4 years, of course. Tell us about New Hampshire, too. Tell us about your district.
Well, my district's pretty independent, rural. There are a lot of people that value their personal liberties and rights, and a candidate like Ron Paul, who's a true constitutionalist, has got a following here. On the other hand, there's also a big independent vote. Those independent voters are going to trend toward Mitt Romney or John Huntsman, that kind of thing. And so it's an interesting, diverse district. It goes from Salem and Atkinson down in the south here, all the way to the Vermont border and then up to Canada. 2/3 of the land area of the state.
It's a lot to deal with. Tell our listeners and our viewers who don't know, how does the primary work? Because you talked about independents. Independents can vote in the primary. How exactly does it work?
Ever since same-day voter registration was implemented in New Hampshire about 15 years ago, individuals can go in as independents, pick up a Republican or Democratic ballot, go and vote, walk out of the voting booth, put the ballot in the box, and then go back to independent status, which you couldn't do prior to that. So if you're a Democrat today, you can't pick up a Republican ballot tomorrow. But if you're an independent, you can pick up either ballot and then switch back afterwards. I call that the boutique ballot because independents get to pick. I think it's, eventually the independent or non-affiliated party is going to dominate everything because my son registered to vote. He's 18 about a week and a half ago, and when he signed up, he put down Republican, and the supervisor said, "Why are you doing that? Because you can be a Republican if you want to be. Why put it down?" So that's what we're facing here.
What do your constituents say about the presidency of Barack Obama?
Well, of course, it depends on who you're talking to. I think that there's a fair amount of disaffection even amongst those who supported him 4 years ago. I recall so well the enthusiasm for hope and change, and that hope, the details underneath that hope and change were getting out of the Middle East, closing down Guantanamo, turning the economy around and so on, and none of that's really happened. We're still in Guantanamo. We've surged in Afghanistan. We are out of Iraq, which is good, but it was essentially the Bush plan that Barack Obama followed. So I think these young people who were supporting him 3.5 years ago are going to have trouble getting interested enough to be back there again.
Congressman, as a member of Congress yourself, when you see President Obama seemingly bypass Congress when it comes to implementing things, when it comes to a recess appointment, how does it make? I mean, I can't imagine what it feels like personally. It's got to anger you, but then what can you do with your fellow congressmen and to fix congressmen and women to fix this?
It's outrageous political manipulation of an institutional process that's been in place since the beginning of this nation. He didn't appoint these people because he wants to get going with any plan or program. He wants to beat up on the Congress and show that he can win a political battle out in the field. I think it's a travesty, and I think the Congress will have a response to this.
Well, give us an idea of what you're going to do when you get back.
I'm not sure. I think the leadership are working on responses. They're not defined at this point, but I mean, nobody really thought that that any president would dare do this. But now that the precedent has been set, why even have a confirmation process? We might as well just repeal that constitutional amendment, or rather, provision of the Constitution that requires Senate acceptance of certain nominations, and it brings up some really significant issues that will be addressed, if not in the Congress, in the courts.
Tell our listeners and our viewers also about your constituents and their love of the Second Amendment, their love of shooting, hunting, fishing, in some of the most beautiful lands in this country.
I am proud to say that my district is one of the highest per capita NRA membership districts in the country, I believe. And it's part of what the rugged independence of this region of the world. And and I include myself in this category, deeply value our right to keep and bear arms. I'm a very strong advocate of this, and I think that I really represent the vast majority of the people in this area.
Congressman, last question. Your district obviously includes Dixville Notch.
Yes, it does.
And I'm fascinated by Dixville Notch. Have you been there for that?
Many
Tell us about that.
At least twice. Well, it's a little different this year because the hotel is closed for renovations, but they're going to open it up just for tonight. Normally, the hotel is in full swing. It's usually full, and there are bands playing and parties and all that kind of stuff. It'll be much quieter this time. But they round up all the residents of the town, which, by the way, are about half what they have been in the past because the hotel is closed. There are only, I don't know, 11 or 12 votes now. There used to be about 25.
You say half, it's so funny, 11.
I know. And they have a ballot room, which is quite famous, and everybody lines up. They get everybody in the town. And under New Hampshire law, if everybody on the checklist is voted, you do not have to keep the polls open for the whole day. So at 11:50, they get everybody together. They're all there, and immediately at midnight, everybody drops their ballot in the box. They whip them out and count them as quickly as they can, and then phone the results out. And the same thing occurs in Hart's location, which is nearby, a little farther south, and it's in the other district, in the 1st district. So I think it's a great tradition, and I'm glad that given the difficulties, the logistical difficulties, that the town of Dixville is going to step forward and hopefully nominate Mitt Romney for president for 12:01 tomorrow morning.
Last question. Why should people visit your state? Why should they come spend their tourism dollars in the Granite State?
Well, we have one of the most beautiful foliage seasons in the world in early October. We have great ski areas. Wonderful summer with Lake Winnipesaukee and all the lakes on Golden Pond was filled up on Squam Lake. And we also have Seacoast, which is a great area where we get all the fun of the ocean states, along with the mountains for hiking and so forth. And that's the tourism side. We're also a great state to work in. We have low unemployment, less. It's been hovering around 5%, 4.8 to 5.1%. We're very diverse in terms of our employment base, and our real estate values, although not low, are certainly reasonable.
Very cool. Congressman Charles Bass of New Hampshire, too. Thanks for your time, sir.
Glad to be with you. Thank you for having me.